We're constantly told to eat clean, eat whole, eat raw, but in this new study, one food, a food you'd probably overlook, did something no raw vegetable could do. It stopped gut barrier damage, even under direct inflammatory attack. You see, scientists use human gut cells and they added two of the most damaging immune triggers, and they watched the gut lining start to break down. Then they added this food and everything changed. The damage stopped, even while those inflammatory triggers were still active. And here's the twist. It wasn't fiber, it wasn't vitamins, or even probiotics. It came from something deeper, a set of powerful compounds your body cannot produce on its own. So you probably heard talk about gut health like it's a trend, but underneath that buzzword is something critical. And it starts with your gut lining. Your gut lining isn't just a wall. It's your body's filter. It decides what gets absorbed and what stays out. But under stress, that barrier can start to break down. And when it does, things leak through, things that weren't meant to enter your bloodstream. This triggers immune responses, inflammation, and long-term problems. Most people don't even trace back to the gut. This study didn't just show damage, it showed that a specific fermented food could prevent it, even in the middle of an immune attack. And the protection came from something unexpected, a group of fermentation byproducts that acted like a shield for the gut lining. So let's walk through what they did and why this goes way beyond probiotics. So this information came from a UC Davis study. They took CACO2 cells, human gut cells commonly used in research because they mimic how your intestinal lining behaves. Then they exposed these cells to two powerful inflammatory messengers, TNF alpha and interferon gamma. These are like the body's emergency sirens. When there's a threat, they kick in to trigger the immune system, but they also start tearing down the gut barrier. The researchers wanted to see what could protect the gut lining during this immune attack. So they tested 4 different things: raw cabbage extract, just the brine, the salty liquid from sauerkraut, lab-made fermented cabbage, and store-bought sauerkraut. Here's what happened. Raw cabbage, no protection whatsoever. Gut barrier breakdown still happened. Brine alone, same story, no defense. But both kinds of fermented cabbage, lab-made and store-bought, the gut barrier held strong. Inflammation couldn't break through. So what made this fermented version different than raw? It all boils down to the process. During fermentation, beneficial bacteria starts to transform the cabbage, breaking down compounds and producing entirely new ones. These new compounds, unfortunately, are not found in raw vegetables. They are called postbiotics. They're created by bacteria during the fermentation process. And get this, they still work even if the bacteria are no longer alive. Crazy. In this study, the researchers found a few bacteria that stood out. There's D-phenylatic acid, there's indole-3 lactic acid, and there's lactate. But here's the interesting part. When they tested these compounds individually, the protection was only mild. It was the full combination of all 3 found only in whole fermented cabbage that created the strongest defense. So it wasn't just about one miracle molecule. It was the synergy of all 3 postbiotics working together to shield the gut barrier under inflammatory stress. This isn't just about sauerkraut. It's about what fermentation does to food and how that can change your biology. This study showed that fermented foods deliver compounds that help reinforce the gut barrier, even under inflammatory stress. And it didn't take much, just 10 grams of fermented cabbage, which is under about 2 tablespoons, help deliver a protective effect. The key here is your body can't produce postbiotics on its own. You can only get them from fermentation. And if you're wondering whether your gut lining might be compromised, here are a few symptoms that could manifest if that's the case. There's bloating, fatigue after meals, skin issues, and brain fog. Now, these symptoms don't prove your gut barrier is compromised, but they're often early signs that there's a problem. Now that you know what's happening under the surface, here's 8 tips to help use this information and support your gut. First, choose real fermented foods. Look for sauerkraut or kimchi that says raw and pasteurized or contains live cultures. If it's shelf stable or canned, it's more than likely been heat treated and it's lost its beneficial compounds. Second, don't worry about brands. The study found no difference between lab-made and store-bought sauerkraut. If it's fermented properly, it works. Third, eat the cabbage, not just the brine. The liquid didn't help in the study. The protective compounds were in the actual vegetable. Fourth, remember to start small, but be consistent. Just a small serving daily can support the gut barrier over time. Think of it like insurance, not a quick fix. Fifth, try different fermented foods. Carrots, beets, onions. Fermentation creates unique compounds depending on the vegetable. Mix it up a bit. Sixth, pair it with polyphenols. Adding foods like berries, dark chocolate, or green tea can help boost microbial diversity and reduce inflammation, potentially enhancing the benefit of fermented foods. Pretty cool. Seventh, use it when your gut's under stress. If you're taking antibiotics, NSAIDs, or eating a heavy inflammatory meal, that's a smart time to include a fermented food. It may help support your gut barrier in that particular moment. And eighth, try a 7-day test. Add 1 or 2 tablespoons of fermented vegetables to your lunch or your dinner for that 7 days. Track how you feel, digestion, energy, brain fog, and sometimes the smallest changes can tell you the most. So the takeaway here, fermentation isn't just food preservation, it's biochemical transformation. Raw vegetables are great, but they don't deliver the same protective compounds that fermented ones do. And in the case of gut health, those postbiotics might be exactly what your body's been missing. And if you're interested in supporting healthy testosterone levels, whether it's for you or someone you know, the next video is for you. It's called Eat These Foods for Stronger Testosterone Levels. See you there.